This video is using what we know about average speed to solve word problems. Okay, so in this first problem it says, Mr. Mayones drives 3 hours at an average speed of 40 miles per hour. Then he drives 2 hours at a speed of 35 miles per hour. What is his average speed for the whole trip? So we know that when we're looking for speed, we're using the formula. Speed equals distance divided by time. Now, it says, what is his average speed for the whole trip? So we need to find the distance for the whole trip. So we know in the first part, he drove 3 hours at an average speed of 40 miles per hour. So that means each hour he drove 40 miles. So we would need to do 40 times 3, which would equal 120 miles. So Mr. Mayones drove 120 miles in the first 3 hours. Then he drove 2 hours at a speed of 35 miles per hour. So that means each hour he drove 35 miles. So he went 35 miles for 2 hours. So 35 times 2 would mean he did a total of 70 miles. So the total distance, if we added it, would be 190 miles in total. So we did a total of 190 miles divided by the total time. Well, we know he drove 3 hours at first and then 2 hours at the second part. So he drove a total of 5 hours. So the distance divided by time, 190 divided by 5. 5 goes into 19 3 times. Subtract and we get 4, bring down the 0. 5 goes into 40 8 times. So our answer would be 38. So the average speed Mr. Mayones drove for the whole trip was 38 miles per hour. Okay, let's try another example. Miss Holton drives 4 hours at an average speed of 30 miles per hour. Then she drives 2 hours at a speed of 45 miles per hour. What is her average speed for the whole trip? So again, we're looking at speed. So we know we're going to be using the formula speed equals distance divided by time. Now again, this one's looking for the average speed for the whole trip. So that means we need to find the total distance and divide it by the total time. So Miss Holton drives 4 hours at an average speed of 30 miles per hour. So each of those 4 hours, I drove 30 miles, so I'd have to do 30 times 4. So in the first part of my trip, I drove 120 miles. In the second part of my trip, I drove 2 hours at a speed of 45 miles per hour. So 45 times the 2 hours, 90. So in the second part of my trip, I did 90 miles. So in total, I did 210 miles. So we're going to take our total distance, which was 210 miles, and divide it by our total time. So in the first part of my trip, I drove 4 hours, and in the second part, I drove 2 hours, so I drove a total of 6 hours. So 210 divided by 6. Do our division on this side over here. 6 goes into 21 3 times, which is 18. Subtract that and we would get 3. Bring down the 0. 6 goes into 30 5 times. So our answer is 35. So my average speed for the whole entire trip would be 35 miles per hour. Okay, let's try one more example of this type of word problem. A family took 2 hours to drive from city A to city B at a speed of 55 miles per hour. On the way home, they took 3 hours at a speed of 40 miles per hour. What was their average speed for the whole trip? So again, we're looking for speed. So we know we're going to be using the formula distance divided by time, but it is for the whole trip. So we need to find the total distance of the trip. So in the first part of the trip, it was 2 hours at 55 miles per hour. So that means they did 55 times 2, which is 110 miles in the first part of the trip. On the way home, they took 3 hours at a speed of 40 miles per hour. So they did a total of 120 miles on the way home. So altogether, the family drove 230 miles. So that's their total distance. Divided by their total time, well, they drove 2 hours on the way there and 3 hours on the way back. So we're going to divide by 5. $230 divided by 5 goes in 4 times, which is 20. Bring down the 0. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 5 times 6 is 30 with no remainder. So your answer is 46. So the average speed of the whole trip was 46 miles per hour.